Amazon came out with their list of the best books of 2024 according to their book editors, and I thought it would be fun to look at the list, letting you know which books I want to add to my TBR, my to be read pile, and then I'll pick a couple to read throughout the week, and that way I can give you my reviews and let you know which ones I would recommend. So let's go from number 10 to number 1. Number 10, we have The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, which I have read about 6 of her books so far. I did enjoy the Grisha universe by her, but didn't care for Night House. So I haven't picked this one up because I thought it sounded like it was going to be a bit more similar to Night House, a little bit slower pace. I know this one is a mix of like a little bit of mystery, a little bit of romance in a fantasy world, but also set during Spanish time, like the golden age of Spain. And frankly, I didn't really have much of an interest for it, but feel free to convince me otherwise in the comment section. I'm always looking for more recommendations, but yeah, I didn't pick that one up and it's not currently on my TBR. In 9th position, we have I Cheerfully Refuse, which the premise of this one sounds confusing, but for some reason, the cover is really appealing to me, so I might check it out. It is an adult dystopian book where billionaires are extremely rich. There's even more of a divide between people. Climate change is more of a thing, and you're following a character who I think has been separated from his family and he's trying to find them. Again, I tried to look up some reviews and it still wasn't super clear, so feel free to correct me in the comment section, but I might end up reading this one. In 8th position is a book I will definitely be reading this week, and it is The Wedding People, which actually this did win the Goodreads Choice Award in the fiction category. Usually I'm not the biggest contemporary reader, but I'm always open. I have heard that this one is kind of funny, but like dark humor. You're following a female character who goes to this very fancy inn where she's been dreaming of going to, and when she gets there, there's actually a wedding, so she wasn't supposed to be allowed to be there, and the bride finds out and they end up having some kind of back and forth. And I believe the humor is dark because she's there to end her life, which don't quote me, I'm not sure yet. I haven't read it, but I will before the end of the week. So I'm really looking forward to it because again, I've been told it's funny, which I could use some humor, and I'm hoping that I will also love it as much as everyone else. I believe this might be like a debut novel, and I don't think anyone was expecting it to win that category on Goodreads. So looking forward to that one. I think it might be the first one I read this week because again, I'm very hopeful. I want to find at least one new star favorite this week, and maybe it will be the one. In 7th position, there is Be Ready When the Luck Happens, which is a memoir, which I'm gonna be honest, I don't know who this woman is. Don't come for me. A few years ago, I didn't speak English, so I don't know. So we're gonna move on to number 6.
Martyr.
You know, I knew that. I just needed to hear it apparently. So Martyr. This one, I believe, is a mix of different genres. I've actually been seeing that one going around and I almost picked it up, but I already had 3 books for this vlog, which is enough. But this one, you're following a main character who is now sober and his parents are immigrants from Iran. It's a coming of age story that talks about grief, addiction, family, and in general, it has really high ratings. Most of the books actually on this list, which I feel like sometimes recommendation lists from editors tend to be a bit more literary fiction than what I usually go for, but I'm really interested in so many of these, a little bit to my surprise, and again, the ratings in general have been really high, so this one I would check out. Number 5 is a nonfiction called The Small and the Mighty, 12 Unsung Americans Who Changed the Course of History from the Founding to the Civil Rights Movement. I'm gonna be honest, this is not on my TBR. But if you enjoyed it, feel free to rave about it in the comment section for others. Number 4, we have The Women by Kristen Anna. She tends to write really popular historical fiction. This one actually also won the Goodreads Choice Award, but in the historical fiction category. Again, not on my TBR. I'm not really a big fan of war kind of novels in general, and this one you're following, I think it's nurses during the Vietnam War. So it's very popular though. It won by like a large margin, so if that's your thing, definitely check it out, but I won't. The next one is a little bit outside of my comfort zone, but I had heard really great things, so I decided to pick it up, and it is James. So this is a retelling of the adventures of Huckleberry Finn. So it's an American classic, and the retelling is told from the point of view of Jim the slave. So basically, he has heard that he was going to be sold, taken away from his wife and daughter, so he decides to escape, and then Huck decides to go on an adventure with him. He's a child, so he thinks it's fun. So I'm curious to see what the difference is going to be. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't read the classic, and I'm kind of wanting to go into it without knowing, just in case. I'll probably look it up if something happens and I want to compare, because again, I believe the original book was written from the point of view of the child, so I feel like that's going to be very different, but I'm really excited for it. It's not super long, it's like 300 pages pages, and I've heard that the writing is beautiful. So I'm looking forward to that one. Like I said, a little outside my comfort zone, but I have a good feeling. Again, extremely high ratings for this one. In second position, we have The God of the Woods. So I also wanted to read this one by Liz Moore. Actually, I have read Long Bright River by her, and I went into that one with the wrong expectations. I had heard that it was a mystery thriller, and turns out it's more family drama with a little bit of mystery. So I felt like it was an okay book because, again, my expectations. So I'm going into this one with the right expectations this time because apparently it's the same thing. It is family drama with a little bit of a mystery. You're following this drama in this summer camp. The daughter of the owners disappears one morning. She is not in her bed, so I'm assuming that they're going to be trying to find her. So again, I'm expecting it to be really slow paced. It's a chunkier one, but hopefully, again, my expectations are going to be helping me to enjoy this one more than I did the other one. I mean, the other one was fine. It's just, again, it was so much more slow paced than I expected. So hopefully this one is going to work. So I think I might actually read them in that order. Oh, actually, there's one more. I almost forgot the first position goes to The Boys of Riverside, a deaf football team on a quest for glory. I'm going to be honest, you could not pay me to read this. I mean, there's always a price. You could pay me to read this, but I will never read for free a book about sport. Nobody's sponsoring this video, so I will not be picking this up, but if that's your thing, it's extremely popular and it won the #1 spot, so feel free once again to review the comment section if you've read it and enjoyed it, but I will never read that. She was screaming behind the door, so that's Claudia. She will be yelling in the background. So like I was saying, I think I'm gonna actually read them in that order, because why not? I'm hoping that this one is going to be as fun as everyone is saying, and I have about 2 weeks to read them, so I think that's doable. And quickly, I wanted to look at the ones that I have read that are part of the top 100, because some of them are really fantastic, and I think they deserve a shout out. And there's one I'm currently listening to as an audiobook, so I might as well include that review too. So there is Funny Story by Emily Henry, which I did enjoy that one. I'm not a huge romance reader, but I feel like she's kind of my exception. This one wasn't as good for me as Beach Read or Book Lovers, but it was better than Happy Place or People We Meet on Vacation. So it was kind of in the middle for me. It's still very readable. You do get the plot of people pretending to date. And it turns out they're pretending to date because her fiance ended up with the girlfriend of the man. So it's a lot of drama, a little bit too much miscommunication for my taste, but it's still very enjoyable because Emily Henry. I do have on my TBR The Message, by the way. The waiting list at the library is extremely long though, but I'm looking forward to that one. The one I'm currently listening to is When the World Tips Over by Jen D. Nelson. I have read 2 of her other books, and I'll Give You the Sun has to be one of my all-time favorite books. At least it was 8 years ago when I read it. It is a young adult contemporary kind of coming of age story, and I absolutely loved it. Her writing style tends to divide people. It tends to be very lyrical, a lot of like metaphors, and it's very artistic, which really worked with the characters in my opinion. So I love that one, again, 8 years ago, and I was curious to see if I still would enjoy her book. So I'm 20% into the audiobook, which is like 18 hours long. So I should be able to finish it before the end of this vlog, and I'll review it because might as well. But I believe this is another contemporary YA coming of age story, so I'll keep you updated, but I'm excited. We Solve Murders is just a fun, almost a little cozy murder mystery. If you enjoy audiobooks, I do recommend his books as audiobooks because of the English accents. It just really works for me. So he's also the one that wrote the Thursday Murder Club, which is really popular, and this was enjoyable. It was fun. But the reason I really wanted to include these quick shout outs is because All the Colors of the Dark will make it to my best books of the year. It's extremely slow paced, and once again, it's been categorized as a mystery, and if you go into it expecting that, I think you're going to be disappointed. I love his writing style. This is my second book by him, and I think it's his best one. And you're following Patch, who believes himself to be a pirate. He's poor, pretty much neglected as a child, and he intervenes because he perceives himself as a hero when there's the rich, pretty girl that someone is trying to kidnap, and he's the one being kidnapped. So you're kind of seeing the consequences of that through everyone's life, for their whole life. So again, very character-driven, very slow-paced, and a little bit of mystery, but I loved it. I think those are all the ones that I have tried. Now we have a game plan. The goal here is to get 1 5-star. If we can find more, even better. I feel like I said, in general, book editors tend to have more literary fiction taste than I do, but if I enjoy all of these, I will have to check out more books from the top 100. So let's get to work. Do you want to say hi? This is Chunky, by the way. So you're going to see cats going around because I have 4. Don't ask me how that happened. That's called the cat distribution system. They just found me. We are day 3 and I've already finished my first book. I flew through this book. To be fair, it's like 300 something pages, but still, I flew through it because I was really, really enjoying it. I think we've already found my first 5-star. which is completely unexpected, but I'm glad. Also, I was right with my description of the story. I feel like sometimes I'm nervous to try to summarize a book I haven't read yet, but I was okay. So turns out, yes, it's funny. And I know some people had mentioned that it was a little bit rom-com, which I understand why people said absolutely not, because it's way darker than the average rom-com. I think I would consider this like a deeper chick lit, which like I haven't been reading a lot of chick lit. I feel like I used to as a teenager a lot because they're fun. And I kind of miss how readable they are. And this is a really good balance of, again, very readable while still addressing really serious topic, obviously grief, depression, and just, trying to find yourself in life and how they're not even 40, but they're still feeling like they have to find themselves because they don't know who they are basically anymore. When you've been married for a while and like kind of getting into a slump and then someone not being faithful, which this isn't a spoiler because right from the beginning, it's kind of implied how things are going to happen because obviously if she gets there to end her life, something dramatic has happened. There's more to it, but I don't want to spoil everything. But it was funny. I want to mention that because, again, page 14, I think. Let me just open it. Okay, yeah, page 14. She says, I'm here to myself. So it's not a spoiler to mention that she's there because she wants to do that. But literally, the next page, the bride, because they're obviously talking, she's like, no, you're not about to do that. You're going to ruin the most important week of my life, not just a day, a whole week, because of course it is. And you kind of get this relationship between them. The banter was so good. I was really, really enjoying it. Everyone is like that, which isn't really realistic, but like I'm not reading this for it to be realistic. Again, you still end up having some really interesting commentary on people, the choices you're making with your lives and how, again, your life is not over if you are 30. I feel like so many people feel that way. You're just starting. You're so young. I appreciated how also it was a little bit more intellectual once again than like the average chick lit because she is a university teacher. So I did appreciate again those more in-depth discussion about again different topics. I don't want to ruin it because again the banter is by far my favorite portion. I was happy with the way it ended. I feel like at one point it goes in a direction that worried me. Okay. I was a little worried for a second, but I'm so glad I read this. It completely deserves the hype. I understand why it won even the fiction category for the Goodreads Choice Award. I agree with the editors. This is so worth it. There's only one thing I hated. Listen, white people, we need to talk, okay? You have to stop embarrassing us online and in the real world because I don't know if you've heard of that conversation online and how, like, some white people don't wash their legs or their feet in the shower. Let's not even debate this. Ew. There's two conversations in this one where the main character admits to not washing her back. So I'm here to just recommend, I love these little towel, whatever those, I love them. Okay, they hurt, but so good. You can easily reach your back and at the same time you can do your legs and your feet, okay? I don't even want to debate this. Highly recommend them. They're affordable, they're fantastic, and please stop not washing your back. And talking about it too. Like, are you not embarrassed? So yeah, that's it. So we already have a 5-star. I don't want to tell you any more about the plot because again, it's very character driven. It's mostly banter and you just have to experience it for yourself, but it is absolutely worth the hype. So I'm going to go grab James now. So one down and then we're going to take this one with these. Let's get to work. Book 2. I wasn't planning on reviewing anything today, but here we are because took me 2 days to read this book. It's 300 pages, but most of it really flew. There's like 100 pages in, it's slowed down a little bit, but then it picks right up. And I needed to know how things were going to end because I was so emotionally invested, mostly in Jim, I'm gonna be honest. Huck, less so, but I wasn't too wrong about the premise. It's definitely the main character, Jim, that finds out that he's going to be sold, so he escapes. And the setting, it's set just before or as the Civil War starts. And again, I'm not American, so we don't hear as much details about it as probably Americans do, but a few things in here really surprised me. Actually, I ended up looking up some things about the original book because of what happens in part 3. I'm not going to spoil it, but I can in the comment section if you want me to. But there's a conversation that was like, whoa, was that in the classic? And I don't think it was. So there's that. But I think the original was still pretty scandalous at the time since it was about this friendship between this young white boy and this black man, this slave. So I understand how that was controversial enough, but I appreciated the little touch that was added in here. I was especially interested in the few social commentary that were done, mostly about religion. which there's one quote here. Religion is just a controlling tool they employ and adhere to when convenient. So there's a few quotes like that I thought were interesting. It's definitely been a tool used during the slavery times. And I mean, I'm not going to talk about religion on here. It's definitely a topic that is addressed a few times throughout the book. But the main character, Jim, has been hiding the fact that he can read and write, is educated. And a portion of the book that I hadn't seen any other books about slavery was code switching. So basically people changing the way that they speak depending who they're talking to. And in this case, slave pretending to be a lot less educated, changing the way that they speak in front of white people, and how they're, hiding their own education and teaching each other tricks to blend in and not sending out. This whole conversation in general, I feel like I hadn't seen it. To be fair, I haven't read a lot of books on the topic, so if you have, feel free to talk about it in the comment section. I'm really curious. I will be looking it up more, especially to compare it to the classic, but I believe the classic was from the point of view of the child, so I feel like that probably is different, but I'm still curious to learn about that part. Not enough to read it, to be honest, because I don't feel like the story is 100% my cup of tea, but again, I do think this one was extremely well done. The writing was beautiful. I really need to look up more books by the author because I did find his writing really appealing. Even though, again, the topic per se wasn't 100% something I'm usually interested in, I think this was really well done, and I found myself really invested, mostly again, in James. I found myself also pretty emotional towards the end when things start happening a lot more. Some decisions that were made, and again, don't want to spoil it, but I was really pleasantly surprised. I think that between the three, it was probably the one I was the most nervous about because, again, it's the least close to my usual taste, but I think right now I'm going to give it probably a 4. I'll give myself a few days because, again, right now I'm like reeling from the ending. I liked it. I liked it. So far things are going well. More than I expected. Will I have to trust the editors, the book editors from Amazon? I don't know. Looks like it so far. This is harassment. You have to leave me alone. Okay, so book 2, done. And now we're going to do the last one. I finished my last book and my audiobook, which I need to not forget to talk about, but I don't think this week and a half, 2 weeks, could not have went any better. I loved this book. I feel like every book I have loved. I understand why people were saying to not call this a mystery, which, like, there's technically like 2 mysteries in here, but it's 100% family drama or just drama in general. So yes, technically there's the child of the owners of the summer camp that isn't in her bed when people wake up one day, and it unravels a lot of suspects, a lot of research, and it brings back memories of a disappearance that happened years prior. So there's a lot going to it, but it's extremely character driven, and even though it's very slow paced, I was very invested. I just wanted to know, but at the same time in no rush to finish it. I would say if you are a mood reader, I would keep this for the summer since it's a summer camp, so it feels very summer. And it all happens between the 50s and 1975, so I guess a little historical fiction. You actually get a drawing of their summer camp here. And honestly, I don't think I can tell you more about the story because, again, it's extremely character driven and it's more about figuring out answers and getting to know the characters, and it's not about, the mystery that much. I will say I have one post-it, what was it? Okay. Do you ever read a book and then something random pops out and you want to talk about it with someone? Like, if you had a book club, this is where you would discuss it. Let's discuss this because this is random, but it took me out of a story. Page 259. Someone applies a cold steak to her face, which I always thought it was weird when it happened in a movie, let alone a book, because first off, does everyone has just a cold steak waiting for them in their fridge? Plus, that sounds really expensive to treat, someone gets hit, hurt, whatever. Why would you waste a steak on someone's face? Because you're not going to eat it afterwards. Like, who has that kind of money? And again, who has a steak at all times waiting for them in the fridge? Yeah, that's the only post-it I put in this book. I would still highly recommend it. I think I'm gonna round it down to a 4, but it's probably a 4.25. And by the way, when I was starting it, I realized that I have read 3 books by the author now, because I have read The Unseen World, which I didn't really care about. So I feel like every book I have read by her, my enjoyment of it has increased. So I'm now looking forward to reading more by her because this is my 3rd one and it was really good. So I'm actually surprised that this won the Goodreads Choice Award for the mystery category, because once again, it's not really mystery, but it won over some really big authors like Frida McFadden, which I can't stand, but really popular. And I'm really surprised that this many people enjoy this book. I did too, but I'm a little shocked because again, it's not very mystery, but love this. Love these 2. Oh, the audiobook, actually, before I forget. This one was a YA contemporary coming of age, and I have to say it's also very much about the writing, which is very heavy on the metaphors. I feel like every time that she writes, her characters are very artistic and it really shows in the writing style, which can be a deal breaker for a lot of people. I know that's what I've heard for her past work, but I feel like it works because they're often like children or teenagers and it's very like coming of age type of stories. They want answers about where their fathers went. You have these 3 kids. Their father disappeared and you're also following this other girls who she doesn't know who her father is. So everyone is trying to find answers and it's still very character driven, and I really enjoyed it as an audiobook. Not as much as I'll Give You the Sun, but again, it's been years, so I don't know if I can really compare it, but I would also give it a 4-star. It was a solid read, but it's probably my least favorite out of the 4, which again, it's a YA one, so I'm not too surprised here, but I would recommend these 3 to everyone if they sound appealing. I'm surprised. I feel like I shouldn't be because they were popular, but I feel like sometimes when I get to reading list of editors' favorite books, they don't tend to be the kind of books I end up loving. It was because I had seen them on other lists and I had been getting the recommendation in my comment section. So I shouldn't be too shocked, but I'm a little bit shocked anyway. So that one would be in 4th place. Then we would have 3rd place just because it's not my usual genre. And then I think we're going to go with God of the Woods, and then The Wedding People in 1st place. It was so good. Now it looks like I will have to trust them and check the rest of the books on this list. So if you have other favorites, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. And if you were looking at these, I say go for it. They were fantastic. I had a great time. I was going to say week. It's been more than a week. I had a great time. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I will be putting similar reading vlogs on the screen that I would recommend you check out, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.